booksellers across the U.S., continuing his tradition of supporting bookstores since 2015. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Lowe's knows how to save you time and money. Order what you need by 2 p.m. to get it delivered same day. Valid on eligible in-stock orders and select zip codes for same-day delivery. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. More terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Is this the
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC's women's basketball team had no trouble with Fresno State last night at the Galen Center. The Trojans, ranked 5th in the country, dominated Fresno State 89-40. Juju Watkins and Kiki Irefin combined to score more points than the entire Fresno State team. Irefin led the Trojans with 24 points and 12 rebounds. Watkins finished with 21 points and 5 assists. The 9-1 Trojans are back in action Sunday against Elon at the Galen Center. Kawhi Leonard practiced with the Clippers Tuesday for the first time this season. Leonard has been doing rehab and treatment on his right knee since training camp. He was held out of contact activity, but participated in most of the team's offense and defense drills. Clippers coach Ty Lue said there is still no timetable for when Leonard might be able to play. The Clippers are 14-11 without Leonard and have the 6th best record in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours, now through December 20th. All of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
On behalf of her precious family, it is with profound sadness that KBLA Talk 1580 announces the passing of our beloved colleague, Robin Aers, on Thursday, December 5th. Robin was a bright light. You could see her radiant smile through the radio. We all respected her immense talent, loved her jovial spirit, celebrated her love of family, and honored her faith in God. Our thoughts and prayers are with Robin's entire family, most especially her husband Rob and her twin daughters Brooklyn and Madison. We ask you to join us in praying for the Aers family as they navigate the difficult days ahead. In her honor, all this week, we're broadcasting the best of the Rob Report on KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, Tracy McMillan, journalist and author of The White Bonus, 5 Families and the Cash Value of Racism in America, on how the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson reminded her of her own family's battle against insurers on behalf of her mother, who finally succumbed 9 years after sustaining a traumatic brain injury in a car accident. Plus, we'll talk to Tracy about how a man like Luigi Mangione, now charged, as you know, in this riveting murder case, grew up in a white world of privilege and promise and still wound up in a situation like this. What's that all about? There is some breaking news today. We'll talk about that in just a moment with our first guest. On the B side of hour 2, thoughts on Donald Trump's efforts to weaponize state power for his radical policies. What's his plan and what does the pushback look like? A conversation with Jesse White, former Illinois Secretary of State. In our third hour, 2 more conversations, full show today. One of those days, 80-pound show in a 40-pound bag. Up first, when they target, claim espionage, and then execute your parents for political activity. A conversation with Robert Meeropol, son of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, with Trump 2.0 on the horizon. This story is a cautionary tale about enemies lists and the politics of fear and paranoia. On the B side of hour 3, we'll lighten things up with actor Daryl Chill Mitchell on the 25th anniversary of the sci-fi comedy classic Galaxy Quest. Plus, we'll talk to Daryl, I am certain, about his passion for years now, advocating for the disabled in Hollywood. But in this first hour, let's talk politics with Brian Grimm, co-founder of Dropsite News and host of the podcast Deconstructed. Ryan, good to have you back, sir. How are you today?
I'm good. How you doing, Tavis?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing okay, despite all the drama that is swirling around us. Let me just set this up. I'm watching my clock here. Let me set this up, and I promise when I come forward, I'll let you loose for the rest of the hour. So there is some breaking news here as of last evening on this United Healthcare murder case. The CEO, of course, Brian Thompson, the man now arrested, Luigi Mangione. The police have his notebook, and in the notebook he describes his rationale for killing the CEO. We've all been waiting for this, right? So the more we learned about this guy, Luigi Mangione, again, he's a kid of white privilege and promise. He's the valedictorian of his class. I mean, they got video of this guy everywhere. He is is quite accomplished for a young white male in America. And so you look at this guy with all this privilege and all this promise, and you say, as I posed a moment ago, how do you end up in a situation like this? I quote now from his notebook, quoting specifically from the New York Times, quoting from his notebook. What do you do, he writes in his notebook. What do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence, close quote. Just one passage from his notebook that I think gives us some insight into his thinking. I repeat, what do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence, close quote. Just one passage that Luigi Mangione wrote in his notebook. Just getting started with Ryan Grimm. We'll unpack it all when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Thanks to Total Wine, you saved more on all the gifts for the ones you adore. Wine, spirits, beers, all nestled on shelves. Got some advice from our helpful elves. Oh, so many gifts to explore when you go to Total Wine and More. Bottles so delightful, whoa. Priced so amazingly low.
Curbside pickup and delivery available, and the lowest prices for over 30 years only at Total Wine and More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been hearing me guest host here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm having a blast. But I'm excited about joining the official lineup here at KBLA Talk 1580 starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. Start your day with First Things First and Dominique DePrima at 6 a.m. Check out Tavis Smiley at 9 a.m. Tune into Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner at 12 noon, and then tap in with me on The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at 1 p.m. weekdays. I served 17 years in the U.S. Congress, and I can tell you it's going to be a rough 4 years, so let's navigate this journey together. It's The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
All right, Ryan Graham, there are a number of things I want to talk to you about in this hour. I'm glad I have you for the hour. But clearly this is the topic du jour these days, and we're going to spend some time, as I said, in our second hour talking to Tracy McMillan, who has written pretty powerfully, recalling what her family had to go through over a 9-year period on behalf of her mother with these insurers. Everybody seems has a horror story about these insurance companies in this country. Put a pin in that for the moment. But to this news of the hour, that they are going through this notebook of Mr. Mangione's, and they are finding some interesting passages. In case you've just tuned in, I repeat this one passage again. What do? You whack the CEO at the annual Parasitic Bean Counter Convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence. I'm still reading through this as fast as I can, at least with the detail they're giving us, Ryan. But it does give us some insight into his thinking, that this was planned, that he apparently didn't want to hurt anybody else. He wanted it to be targeted, precise. It turns out to be, if all this stuff is accurate, that he accomplished what he set out to do. But what's your take, though, on what we're learning about the way this the backstory, as it were, of this murder?
Yeah, and I'm going to stick around as a listener to the second hour because I'm curious to hear what Tracy's going to say, particularly not just with her own personal experience with her mother, but also her book on the privilege of whiteness and how that plays in, because I think that's really interesting. And so I'm a white kid from Maryland, just like Luigi here, and I have an interesting theory here that I want to run by.
I want to hear it.
So I grew up poor in Maryland. and on the eastern shore of Maryland, which is on the other side of the Chesapeake Bay from Baltimore, Luigi went to this prep school called Gilman. I'm an hour and a half from Baltimore, where I grew up. I had heard of Gilman. Like, it's the elite, prep school of the Baltimore area and all of Maryland. Like, if you're a rich kid, if you're the elite in the Baltimore area and you can go to Gilman, like, you're going to Gilman. Like, that's the cream of the crop right there. Mm-hmm. And so this is a different milieu that this kid grew up in. And so here's what I think, just to do the armchair psychologizing. Mm-hmm. When people who grow up with adversity confront more adversity throughout their life, sometimes it builds the kind of character in you that you can push through it. But as you push through it, you think to yourself, this is just what life is. Life is adversity. Life is being told no at every step. Life is being screwed over by every system that's been built. Like, that's why the systems are built, to screw you over. If you grow up at the pinnacle of privilege, being told no hits a little bit different. And so that's what I think could help to explain the extreme reaction. Like, why wouldn't it be somebody who, grew up getting screwed their entire life that says, you know what, I'm going to take the CEO out? I think because of the giant gap between kind of the way that he was brought up and then what he confronted through all of this back pain that he had and the back surgery and his interactions with the insurance companies and the inability to get the treatment that he felt he deserved. Mm-hmm. I think the gap between those two things is what built into the intense amount of rage. And I think everybody deserves the best treatment. Whether you're the 0.1% or the bottom 0.1%, everybody should have wonderful treatment. So I'm not saying that a rich kid shouldn't get good treatment, but I think that has to be a factor in it. That he's just like, wait a minute, this is wrong, and this is not how I've lived my life. Like, he's somebody who would have lived his life being told yes, being told you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want, and then to have an insurance company tell him, well, no, this treatment, we this is too experimental, or we don't like this, or we're not going to finance this, plus the back pain and the back surgery. Like, you ever talk to people who've gone through intense amounts of back pain? It can be absolutely mentally, it can break you. So I don't know. What do you think? That's why I think it's in some ways throughout history, some of the most hardcore revolutionaries have actually come from positions of privilege.
Yeah. That my friend Cornel West, and I utter this word only because Cornel West has used it publicly a number of times, and we're all big boys around here. We can handle it. Mm-hmm. And I know where the line is, and Ryan knows where the line is. So that's the setup for this word I'm about to utter. Mm-hmm. But Cornel West has given a number of speeches over the years, and in those speeches he talks about what he calls the niggerization of America. He first used that term years ago after 9/11. I recall being with him in the audience when he addressed this crowd on this particular day, and for the first time ever, as long as I've known him 30+ years, he'd never used that word in that context. He doesn't even use the word period, and we've debated about that. As a matter of fact, we were on a record one time many years ago. It was literally a recorded album that's a spoken word album that's been out for some years now, where I was the moderator on this spoken word piece of a debate between Cornel West and Michael Eric Dyson about the use of the word nigger, the N word as some call it. And so this word comes out of his mouth in the context of 9/11, and his point was, now everybody in America knows what it feels like to be a nigger. You feel afraid. You feel disenfranchised. You feel disavowed. You feel disconnected. On and on and on. You take my point. I got to push on watching my time here. But he made this power.
That's a profound way to put it.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of my point. Yeah.
Yeah, it was profound. And so you see where I'm going here. That is precisely your point. That at some point, the good white folk. Sorry, Ryan. The good white folk at some point run into a wall, the same wall that black folk run into every day. The same wall we've been running into since to quote Maya Angelou, since we were stolen, bought, sold into slavery, arriving on a nightmare, praying for a dream. That's Maya Angelou. We've been running into this wall all these years. So I think there may be something to your theory that sometimes.
Right. And then when that white man runs into it, he's like, "Wait a minute,
that's
this wall's
right.
not supposed to be here."
That's right. There are no walls in my life. I'm supposed to have green lights from birth to death. I'm a white male. I'm supposed to have green lights. Now, so I take your theory, and there may be something to it. Let me go a little deeper though. So now this is what. I want to quote now from the New York Police Department and their internal report, again, still quoting from this piece of the New York Times today. The New York Times reports that the NYPD believes that that the suspect, Mr. Mangione, saw himself engaging in what they term a symbolic takedown. Those are the words in NYPD's internal report. Their assessment is that he saw himself engaged in what they term a symbolic takedown. Let me go further. The report adds that the suspect, quote, likely views himself as a hero of sorts who has finally decided to act upon such injustices, and expressed concern that others might see him as a martyr and an example to follow. So what about that part of the story, that this white guy, to your theory, runs into this wall? He ain't never experienced this, doesn't know how to handle no, rejection, et cetera, et cetera. Now, trust me, hold on now. I'm getting to the insurance companies. I ain't letting them off the hook. I'm just dissecting, Ryan and I are just dissecting what we think may have happened in the case with regard to Luigi Mangione. But I ain't letting the insurers off the hook. Don't believe that for a second. We'll come to that, as I promised, in a moment. But with regard to Mr. Mangione, it seems to me that if, in fact, your theory has some credence to it, that he didn't know how to handle this, and he didn't like being told no, then it makes sense then that he would, sort of see this as a symbolic takedown. I don't know about the hero part. I don't know about the martyr part. But it seems that was his way to get some retribution. Your turn, Ryan Graham.
Yeah, and one way to think about it would be, all right, going back to the analogy that you're talking about, where people are running and they hit a wall, and if he takes out that wall, like the other people around him who are hitting that wall are going to be glad that he took the wall out.
There you go.
Like even if they're like, "Whoa, I wouldn't have done that," or like, "Whoa,
yeah,
tugging at their collar," he still went after that wall, and nobody liked that wall. So now, if he viewed himself as a hero, he's not alone.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like in my neighborhood, and I live in Northwest DC, which is a pretty nice neighborhood. A lot of lawyers, lobbyists, like government workers, like these are like people doing pretty well. The universal almost opinion in my neighborhood is kind of like, I wouldn't have done it, but good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so that's my neighborhood.
Yeah,
like the depth of the animosity toward these insurance companies and other representatives of this healthcare system, but insurance companies in particular, has really surfaced in a way that you talk about revolutionary sensibilities in the air. Like it feels revolutionary out there. Like people are thinking and talking in ways that were just these established power centers never thought was maybe even possible. Like for people to be like, I'm not saying I support murder, but you know what? I'm looking the other way on this one.
Yeah. When he was going into court yesterday, Mr. Mangione shouted about an insult to the experience of the American people and their lived experience. That's a quote from him. Mm-hmm. He shouted out yesterday about, quote, an insult to the experience of the American people and their lived experience, close quote. So he apparently, at least as I see it, shouting that out yesterday on his way into court, is doubling down on what he did and why he did it. And again, it's interesting and curious to hear his comment referring to what he did as an insult or about what he did being about an experience of the American people and their lived experience. So again, I see that as doubling down, if nothing else. To your point, watching my time with the other things I want to get to in this hour. But you're right about the fact, and we discussed that on this program this week, that there's been just flat out cheering. There's been cheering all across this country, certainly in social media, echoing what you said a moment ago, Ryan, that people are just sick and tired. I'm thinking of Fannie Lou Hamer now, sick and tired of being sick and tired, literally and figuratively, when it comes to these insurance companies. There was a young woman standing outside of McDonald's where he was detained initially, as we all recall, in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Somebody saw him, called it in, and the police showed up, obviously, very quickly. But there was a young woman I saw a photo of on the news last night holding up a sign right outside McDonald's that said, "Corrupt insurance CEOs have got to go." Corrupt insurance CEOs have got to go. I think, to your point, that is the sentiment of a lot of people. Here's my final question on this for the moment, and we'll push forward. There is fear, no doubt, in the C-suite after Mr. Thompson's gunning down in broad daylight in Manhattan, of all places. There has to be fear in these C-suites. We know that all these CEOs have beefed up their security. I guess the question is whether or not you're holding your breath that these CEOs in this industry will take any lessons away from this, or whether or not Mr. Mangione will just be regarded as a well-to-do white kid who lost his way and became mental, and that's the end of the story, or whether or not they're really going to learn some lessons and do some some Socratic soul searching, if you will, in this moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're already taking their photos and names kind of off of their website, so they're not. So they're doing that, like you said. They're doing the security part, but I think the word that you use that it's so key there is the corrupt part. And I think there have been a lot of like pedantic responses to the criticism of health insurance companies from policy types here in DC that saying like, actually, like the providers, the healthcare providers are quite guilty in this situation too. And by the way, United Health also owns a whole bunch of providers, so they are both an insurance company and a provider. But and say like, actually, the costs that we pay are relative to other countries and blah. They're getting into the weeds on this and trying to defend the system. I think that where that all falls apart is if you're making that argument that actually we're doing the best that we can in a difficult situation, and these are all complicated questions, and then you finish that speech, you reach down and you pick up a bag filled with $10 million in cash, and you walk out of the room, people are going, which was his annual salary, people are going to be like, I'm not so sure that he's being totally earnest. That's right. In trying to do the very best for patients. And if that $10 million is just a sliver of the profit and it's just a kickback from shareholders who are pulling billions of dollars every year out of this insurance company, money that patients are putting in, expecting to get back when they need care, getting their care denied, and then shareholders walking off with the money instead, nobody's going to believe that you're actually doing the best that you can, and that this is really just a complex and difficult situation. And we wish we could, but these mean doctors are just overcharging too much, and that's the real problem.
Well, part of the fear in these C-suites is whether or not Mr. Mangione will in fact be seen as a martyr, as an example to follow. That is the concern of the NYPD, at least in their internal report. And I suspect they're not the only ones thinking about whether or not others will follow his example in the days, weeks, and months to come. We're not done with this. As I mentioned in our second hour today, Tracy McMillan will join us to talk about her own personal story that she's written about quite powerfully of having to fight insurers for 9 years until her mother ultimately succumbed. And while Tracy's story is unique, there are so many Americans listening, no doubt, to us right now who all have horror stories. I know I got my own. Everybody's got some horror story about trying to deal with these insurers. I digress for now. There is more news I want to unpack with Ryan Grimm, co-founder of Dropsite News and host of the podcast Deconstructed, when we come forward on Tavis Smile.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Idaho's strict abortion ban is back in federal appeals court. The law makes it a felony for doctors to perform abortions unless necessary to prevent the patient's death. The court will decide if federally funded hospitals must provide abortions when a patient's life or health is at risk, even in states that ban them. Character.ai is being sued in Texas for allegedly leading a teenager to self-harm by exposing underage users to harmful content. The lawsuit claims the chatbot encouraged violence and caused emotional instability in the child. Joe Burrow's home was broken into during the Cincinnati Bengals Monday Night Football win. No one was home, and it's unclear what was stolen. And Jamie Foxx reveals in his new Netflix special that he suffered a near-fatal stroke last year due to a brain bleed while filming Back in Action. He shared this emotional experience, including passing out from a severe headache. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Lowe's knows how to save you time and money. Order what you need by 2 p.m. to get it delivered same day. Valid on eligible in-stock orders and select zip codes for same-day delivery. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. More terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC's women's basketball team had no trouble with Fresno State last night at the Galen Center. The Trojans, ranked 5th in the country, dominated Fresno State 89-40. Juju Watkins and Kiki Irefin combined to score more points than the entire Fresno State team. Irefin led the Trojans with 24 points and 12 rebounds. Watkins finished with 21 points and 5 assists. The 9-1 Trojans are back in action Sunday against Elon at the Galen Center. Kawhi Leonard practiced with the Clippers Tuesday for the first time this season. Leonard has been doing rehab and treatment on his right knee since training camp. He was held out of contact activity, but participated in most of the team's offense and defense drills. Clippers coach Ty Lue said there is still no timetable for when Leonard might be able to play. The Clippers are 14-11 without Leonard and have the 6th best record in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty, and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Only at Lowe's, MVP's Pro Rewards members can get a volume discount on eligible orders as low as $1,500. Discount on eligible product only and reflected in quote. Restrictions apply. See Pro Desk for details. MVP's Pro Rewards program subject to terms.
The revolution will not be televised.
This is Brother Cornell West. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm full of joy and delight to announce that I'm joining the precious family at KBLA Talk 1580, founded and led by my dear brother Tavis Smiley himself. Yes, The name of the show is Truth Time, and I'll be working with the inimitable Nina Turner out of Cleveland, Ohio, sister of great vision, and we will be on weekdays at 12 noon. We will be following Brother Tavis Smiley's show. We will begin Monday, January the 6th. That's right, Monday, January the 6th. Get ready for a different kind of insurrection. We coming with Martin Luther King Jr. and Fannie Lou Hamer and Curtis Mayfield and Aretha Franklin, and gonna add a little Gil Scott Heron too, as Nina Simone sits at the center. That's right.
The revolution will be live.
That's what we gonna do. Please come with us on this fantastic voyage.
The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. Driver's seat.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Ryan Grimm, co-founder of Drop Site News and host of the podcast Deconstructed, honored as always to be in conversation with Ryan Grimm. Just a final footnote on this, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, Tracy McMillan has a powerful story that she's written about in her book about what her family had to endure for 9 years. After her mother was in an accident and all the fighting they had to do with the insurers until her mother ultimately succumbed, as I said, 9 years after the accident. There's a piece right now that I'm reading, and I've been skimming through it as quickly as I can, but I recommend it to you because it gives you some more backstory to how this white male of privilege and promise ends up in this situation that Ryan and I were just talking about a moment ago, that Tracy and I will discuss in the next hour. But there's a piece in USA Today, and I recommend it. It's called CEO Shooting Suspect Left Winding Trail of Reddit Post About Health Issues. That's the headline. CEO Shooting Suspect Left Winding Trail of Reddit Post About Health Issues. Get to USA Today and read this piece for yourself. I don't have time to unpack it all, but this article is one of the best ones I've read so far the last few days, Ryan, that lays out Reddit has shut this account down. He was posting under an assumed name, Mr. Cactus, Mr. _ Cactus was the name he used to post under. But USA Today has a really interesting piece, a well-researched piece about all the stuff he was posting on that site. So again, Reddit has now shut it down, but USA Today got to it first, I guess. And they've detailed over a decade. He himself had an accident, not unlike Tracy's mother. That we'll discuss in hour two. Luigi Mangione had an accident, and over the 10 years that followed, he went from being an athlete to dealing with all kinds of health consequences because of the accident that he had. Let me just quote one short piece here. When my spondy went bad on me last year, it was completely devastating as a young athletic person. Seemingly all I could read on the internet was that I was destined to chronic pain and a desk job for the rest of my life. That representation was terrifying, inaccurate, and completely destroyed me until I realized the silent majority of fusions are highly successful. He goes on to talk about his pain. He said his back and his hips locked up after the accident, and my whole lumbar and my hips have been out of whack since then. I'll stop. He goes on and on and on, all these Reddit posts over, describing his health issues over a decade after the accident that he had. Why am I raising that? To circle back to Ryan's point, when you're in this much pain and you're fighting with an insurance company for years, and you're a white male of privilege and promise, and the insurer tells you no, I digress. I think you take the point that I'm making, which is the point really that Ryan Grimm was making earlier in this dialogue.
I don't think you digress.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't digress. But that is the point that Ryan Grimm was making. And that underscore. That's a piece in USA Today that I recommend you read because it gives you a really good sense of all the pain physically that he was enduring that apparently led him to do what he did last Wednesday, a week ago today, in New York at the shareholders meeting when he gunned down the CEO of United Healthcare Brian Thompson. There's that. Now, this is an awkward pivot, but I'm watching my time. It's getting away from me. There is other news. I know it's hard to believe because we get stuck on a particular story in this country, whether it's Kamala and Trump or whether it's the killing of this CEO. I ain't mad at us, but we get stuck on stories sometimes as if there's nothing else happening in the world, and there is other stuff happening in the world, and we have to get to these things. Why? Because Trump 2.0 is up on us, and all of these things will be handled a little bit differently than they have been for the last 4 years when Trump gets back to the White House. And so I'm not even going to go into detail, Ryan. I'll let you set this up as you see fit. But I wanted a few days ago to get to this story about Syria, when Bashar al-Assad was run out of Syria. This is a big deal. For those of you who've been around for a while and remember this, there was a moment when he was using chemical weapons on his own people. And this, of course, this is, of course, the Middle East. We're talking about Syria, and we know all the other stuff that's going on in the Middle East right about now. This Syria story is a big story that Bashar al-Assad got run out of his country. And, of course, Biden's on his way out, Trump's on his way in. So there are all kinds of tentacles that offshoot this breaking, not breaking news, but major news of just a few days ago. With that, let me stand down and pass the mic to Ryan Graham.
Yeah, and one thing, I host this show called Counterpoint, which is on the Breaking Points channel, and just today I just finished interviewing this American leftist who traveled to Syria to fight with the kind of Kurdish anarcho-communists against ISIS. Just an absolutely fascinating interview. That'll be up on Friday. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that when you were saying, you could, how are you? You could complain, but it'd be unfair.
Yeah.
I'm just so privileged to be able to do this job, just to sit there and hear this guy's story for an hour.
Mm.
But by way of explanation, that what's going on there is awfully complex with a lot of different players. You've got the Kurds up in the north, which built this autonomous zone, where it's not just the Kurds either. Half the people up in the north are non-Kurds, but they're treated with equal dignity, whether you're a man, woman, no matter what your ethnicity is. But the U.S. was giving them material support because they were fighting against ISIS. Now they refused to collaborate with them because they're leftists.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, they refused to collaborate with them. There's some exceptions to that, including the attack on Manbij, for instance. The U.S. would bomb ISIS from the air, and the Kurdish forces would be taking them on from the ground. The Kurdish forces were also fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And Turkey, meanwhile, our NATO ally, was funding Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Backing this, which then Al-Qaeda. There's the splinter group HTS, run by this guy Jolani, who he finally decides, after the ISIS caliphate is completely destroyed, he says, you can't build an ISIS caliphate in the modern world with the entire world against you. So his break from Al-Qaeda and from ISIS, which he was formerly, fought with both of them, his break was not really ideological. His break was pragmatic, saying you can't do this. You actually have to, appear more reasonable and moderate to the rest of the world, or the rest of the world is going to completely destroy you. And as he broke away, he then fought Al-Qaeda and ISIS to prove kind of to the U.S., look, I'm not your enemy. Take me off the terror watch list. Look, here I am. I'm fighting Al-Qaeda. I'm fighting ISIS.
Right.
And the Turks wanted Assad out, and so they get in bed with this guy Jolani, who's their kind of foot soldier on the ground there, and Assad his forces just kind of melted away.
Mm-hmm.
Iran kind of stood down and said, we're not going to the mat, and Russia did the same thing. So we're not going to the mat.
Mm-hmm.
For Assad at this time. Russia had actually spent, and this is what the guy was telling me today, Russia had spent since 2016 trying to get Assad to team up in a confederation with the Kurds and the other ethnic groups in Syria against ISIS, because it was saying look, we all have a common enemy here, and it's ISIS. Because the Alawites, Assad is Alawite. Assad's government did do a good job of actually protecting, say, Christians in Syria, allowing these various sects and ethnicities to flourish. Now, he was an absolutely ruthless thug with, who ran, dungeons and torture chambers and gassed his own people. Not to say anything nice about him, but when it came to protecting, minority rights in Syria, he was actually good at that. But he was so stubborn that he would, even at Russia's urging, he would not say, okay, fine, I'll make a de facto alliance, with these Kurdish forces. So now he's gone.
Yeah, now he's gone. And to your point, he's gone to Russia. That's where that's where he fled. So the question when we come forward, now that Ron's given us some backstory here about how Assad found himself in this situation, where after all these years he is forced out of his own country. The question is, at least one of the questions is, does that stabilize the region or further destabilize the region? What does it mean for us as Americans that Assad is now gone in Syria? And more expressly, talk to me about, when we come forward, Ryan, who our allies are now, who are our strange bedfellows, if I can put it that way, in Syria now. That part we'll unpack when we come forward, given that Donald Trump is headed back to the White House and all these issues relative to the Middle East ought to matter to us. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From the Merck Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Badass Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
1 in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Ryan Grimm, co-founder of Dropside News, host of the podcast Deconstructed. My time is getting tight on me. So Ryan, bring it home for me in this regard. What does it mean for us that Assad is now out of Syria?
So Israel and Turkey are now working in an uneasy alliance to carve Syria up. You've seen Israel with our weapons and our money going into the Golan Heights, saying that they've annexed it completely forever. Mm-hmm. They want to build a ski resort in the Golan Heights on a mountain there. They keep pushing further and further closer to Damascus. They have bombed basically every military and government installation you can think of across Syria, so it has zero kind of defensive capacity left, which is kind of pretty essential for the sovereign states. In fact, they're effectively kind of demilitarizing the entire government as Turkey moves in against the Kurds from the north. And so, it looks like Turkey and Israel hope that they can basically eliminate the idea of Syria as a sovereign country, and each take big chunks of it and leave a little rump for their stooges in Al Qaeda to manage in the middle. So the last time something like that went on, we wound up with ISIS. Right now, there are 900 American troops stationed in the kind of Kurdish region and near the oil. Syria doesn't have a whole lot of oil, but it's an important transit area, et cetera, for the kind of oil economy. It's not like it's meaningless. So, we will see. It's the regional war that the Biden administration said it was trying to avoid.
Yeah. Nope, I hear you. There's a book you brought to my attention. Again, my time is getting away from me, but there's a book you brought to my attention. Tell me why you wanted me to be aware of this book.
Oh yeah. So, and I have nothing to do with this book. None of my organization doesn't either. But so Rafat al-Arir he's a Palestinian poet who was assassinated December 6th of last year by Israel in a targeted airstrike. He is now out with a posthumous book of poetry and prose called "If I Must Die." Mm-hmm. The namesake poem of that book, "If I Must Die," went globally viral after his death a year ago. You may remember seeing it. It's an absolutely beautiful, heartrending, and poignant poem that was addressed to his young daughter. It's a poem of hope. It's of aspiration, urging her to kind of carry on hope. Now, in April, she, her husband, and their infant son were also killed by an Israeli airstrike. So now, as I see it, it's up to us to carry on that hope that he wanted us to carry on. And I've been urging everyone to buy it. It's a beautiful book, for one, but for two, just to send a message. It is that we haven't forgotten about the Palestinian people, and I think it has so many people have responded. It has a legitimate chance of being a New York Times bestseller, which would be just shocking for a book of poetry from a small publishing house. Yeah, and a book produced posthumously, no less. It has surged to the top 100 books worldwide. But Ryan's right. You hit that Times list. It's a whole nother world when you get on that list. The book is called "If I Must Die," and to his point, it's some beautiful poetry, and I'm glad that Ryan brought it to my attention. When we come forward, two more things I want to bring to his attention and get his take on right quick. One on Trump, one on Biden. You're listening to Ryan Grimm on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
I was so excited when I heard the sandwich was back. What's up? This is Mike.
And this is Celia.
And a little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich
is the symphony of flavors. You can always count on that crispy, tender, juicy chicken. It's so good.
My favorite part is the pimento cheese. Topped off with the honey, it all comes together perfectly. I like the original.
I like the spicy chicken fillet. But either way,
you're getting a winner.
The Chick-fil-A Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is back with a bite. Try it with the original or spicy fillet, now for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight, the fight.
A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific. Your daily pop culture and political news digest with unfiltered conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Staying in the know can be overwhelming, but we've got you covered with a drive time experience that cuts through the noise and offers something real, engaging, enlightening, and entertaining insights on the stories that matter most. Whether it's the headlines shaping the world or the bold voices shaping the culture, we want to be your guide to a smarter, more meaningful take on today's news and events without fluff, fear, or favor. Every day you can expect us to dig deeper into the moments that matter, shedding light on how the powerful, the powerless, and everyone in between are shaping the future. So join me weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific for a drive time experience and podcast that will inform, inspire, and challenge your vision for a more perfect union. Because what's possible in America is always greater than what's wrong with America. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and I approve this message.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed, with Ryan Grimm, at least for the next 3.5 minutes. Just to put to close the circle on this, as the U.S. scrambles to navigate this new Syria, to Ryan Grimm's point, if there is a new Syria, if Turkey and Israel allow for there to be a new Syria, as we scramble to figure out whatever this is going to be and how we're going to deal with it, Donald Trump has said that this is not our fight. Just for the record, he has already distanced himself from Syria, saying this is not our fight. Well, we'll see if he stands by that if a regional war, a broader, wider regional war breaks out. Whether or not he can hold on to that, stay in that frame, I do not know. But that's where he is right now. That this, and that's a quote from him, this is not our fight. That's what Trump has to say about it. We'll put a pin in that for now. I got 2.5 minutes left. Two things I want to cover right quick, one Biden, one Trump. So Trump he continues to speak every day, obviously, as he gets closer to the White House. He has now announced he's going to scrap the policy restricting ICE arrests at churches, schools, and hospitals. At least up until now, there's been some decorum here about the way ICE moves, Ryan Grimm, but now Trump is saying he's going to scrap that policy. And ICE can come and get you inside of a school, inside of a hospital. They can come get you inside of a church, Ryan Grimm, in his mass deportation plan.
I think because he knows that he can't actually carry out a mass deportation plan because he doesn't have the boots for those troopers to do it. He just can't physically, literally can't do it. I think he wants spectacular scenes of violence to satisfy the urges of his base to see, like, look at these videos. Look what I did. Look at these scenes. So I think he's gonna. I think that's I think that's what he's doing there.
Well, if he starts going into churches, schools, and hospitals, he's gonna get the video that he wants. It's gonna be ugly. Ugly. Last 60 seconds I give to you, Ryan. That's the Trump question. The Biden question, the Biden issue rather, is that he is facing mounting pressure from these immigrants before Trump takes office to do something. But what can he do at this point?
Not much. I think they can probably scramble the lists, make it harder for the people to for the next feds to find people.
Yeah.
He had his opportunity to do something, didn't really do it. Also, just reminding me real quickly, the book we talked about, If I Must Die.
Yeah.
We've been so successful in getting so many people to buy it that everywhere you look, it's going to stay out of stock.
Yeah.
But if you want to help the campaign, you should still buy it.
Sure.
Still order it. It won't come right away because they got to do more print runs. But don't be scared away by the fact that it says out of stock when you go look for it. Just order it anyway.
We're
gonna put it up. We're gonna put it on that bestseller list.
Oh my God, I appreciate it, Ryan. We covered a lot of ground here today. Got slowed up a bit in the first half hour talking about this case regarding the murder of the UHC CEO, but it was worth that time.
Earned that time.
Yeah, it was worth that time, and now I'm about to do it again because coming up after Ryan is Tracy McMillan in this next hour with her harrowing story of what her family had to go through fighting insurers when her mother had an accident. We'll do that in just a moment, but for now, Ryan Grimm, thank you, my friend. Happy holidays. We'll do it again.
All right, see you then.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Idaho's strict abortion ban is back in federal appeals court. The law makes it a felony for doctors to perform abortions unless necessary to prevent a patient's death. The court will decide if federally funded hospitals must provide abortions when a patient's life or health is at risk, even in states that ban them. Character.ai is being sued in Texas for allegedly leading a teenager to self-harm by exposing underage users to harmful content. The lawsuit claims the chatbot encouraged violence and caused